to Iran. It is now a year since the clerical regime in Iran elected a new president, Hassan Rouhani. His style stands in stark contrast to the behavior of his predecessor, which frankly isn't exactly hard. All of us who have long despaired about the Iranian regime want to believe that Iran is genuinely committed to positive change. But we do not have the luxury to be naive, nor do the Iranian people who have suffered for far too long under this regime's nuclear ambitions. Human rights, particularly state executions, are actually getting worse on this president's watch and at the hands of their so-called Minister of Murder. Kind words, a smile, a charm offensive are not a substitute. They're not a substitute for real action, nor are they an effective mask to disguise the old hatred. That's why I'm deeply skeptical about President Rouhani and Iran's intentions. A nuclear Iran isn't just a threat to the United States, to Canada. It is a threat to Israel and all of our allies, and it would unwind decades of work on preventing nuclear proliferation around the world. The P5+1 talks have created a framework for Iran to respond to serious and legitimate concerns about its nuclear program. Yet, only one of 12 possible military dimensions of the program are on the table as a means to building confidence. Let us consider for a moment what a regime that is committed to real action on resolving our worst suspicions would actually look like. It would address the remaining 11 possible military dimensions. It would build nuclear generation capacity out in the open and not buried deep beneath rock. And it would propose a national electricity plan and allow full transparency on the peaceful use of military technology. In Canada, we do something different than Iran. We actually build nuclear power plants near the electricity grid. And we don't manufacture medical isotopes under 300 feet of rock. I truly hope that I'm wrong on this and that the current talks are successful in achieving a meaningful deal. But until we are given real reasons to trust their words, I want to say Canadian sanctions will remain in full force, and we will continue to advocate that they stay in full force. I believe there remains a strategic problem with the very nature and conduct of this belligerent regime. I was very close to my grandfather. I learned a lot from him. He had a great and powerful influence on my life. In 1943, like so many Canadians and so many Americans, he went to Europe. And he stayed in the Canadian Forces for 25 years after the war. His generation, who Tom Brokaw has called the greatest generation, had two great struggles. First, the fight against fascism, and second, the fight against communism. Well, the great struggle of our generation is the struggle against international terrorism. And far too often, Israel and the Jewish people are on the front lines of that struggle. And we must be very clear, Iran continues to represent the biggest threat to peace and security in the world today, and we must be mindful of that in any discussions on its nuclear program. A regime that oppresses with terror at home and sponsors it abroad. And until the Supreme Leader's words and actions produce the human rights that the Iranian people deserve, or ceases its sponsorship of terrorism and violence abroad, whether it's in Syria, Lebanon, or elsewhere, Canada will remain deeply skeptical of this regime's intentions.